Vapi released a new feature called campaigns, and this made it significantly easier to make outbound calls. So today I'm going to show you how you can set it up, what features it has, and what are the benefits of using it. Before campaigns, the way you initiated a call was with the help of an automation tool. For example, you made an N8N workflow, then you triggered your Google Sheet, which contained all your leads information. Then what you had to do is iterate through all the leads and call them one by one. And now it is completely changed. You can set up campaigns, you can monitor the performance of the campaign, you can track each calls individually, and you can also listen back to the call. I think it's a really nice feature, so I'm going to show you how you can use it. You can see that they added a new outbound feature. So let's click on it. And basically this is where you can find all your campaigns. You can create a new campaign or you can revisit your existing campaign. I already did a test, but I'm going to create a new to demonstrate how you can set it up. So let's click on create new. And here you can give a name for the campaign. Let's say client reactivation. For the campaign type, at the moment you can only select manual. That means that you need to press a button in order to run the campaign. And when you have that, you need to select a phone number. And this will be the phone number where the call will be initiated from. So I'm going to select my Twilio phone number. And here we have the possibility to upload a CSV. So if I go into Google Sheet, you can see that I have two leads and each of the lead has a phone number and a name. The first row will represent a dynamic variable in the calls. For example, if I call this first lead, the Vapi assistant will say their name, which will be John, and we can access the name variable by using the dynamic variables, which will be name in this case. So if we would need to pass something like age and let's say 20, so we would need to say double curly braces and age. And that means that the Vapi assistant will be aware of this value. So I'm going to export this. We can click on download CSV. And once I exported it, I can just drag it into the upload CSV section. And you can see on the right side that it loaded the leads information and it's going to call the numbers that are in the phone number column. And as you can see, if we go back to Google Sheets, I called it number, but Vapi automatically formatted it. And here in the assistant section, you need to select the assistant which will call your leads. And below that, you have the option to select send now, which means that if you press the launch campaign, it will automatically call your leads. But if you select schedule later, you can select a later time. I'm going to set it to send now. And if I click on launch campaign, it will call my number. You can see that the campaign is in progress now and it's calling me. And let's look into the numbers. It looks like it's queued. Let's pick it up.
Hello, this is Morgan from Growth Partners. We help businesses improve their operational efficiency through custom software solutions. Do you have a few minutes to chat about how we might...
Okay, I ended the call. And for the ended reason, we should see a value. You can see that we have the ended reason, which is customer ended call. If I open this, I will be able to listen back the call. And now you can see that the campaign has ended. And ideally, it will call all your leads. So if you have 100 leads, it will call each of them. And it's very important to mention that Vapi has a concurrency limit for the calls. And initially you have 10 concurrency lines, which means that at the same time, it's going to call a maximum 10 numbers. But at the end, all your leads will be called. So let's go back and you can see that the client reactivation campaign has been completed. You can see the analytics here, the total calls completed, and one picked it up. So this is one way you can initiate a campaign, but I'm going to show you how you can do the same with N8N. So if you don't want to feed your leads every time you want to launch a campaign to Vapi, you can trigger a workflow in N8N and that will get all your leads from Google Sheets directly and it will create a campaign within the N8N workflow. So let's open up N8N and what we can do is click on add first step and add trigger manually. And then when you click on execute workflow, we will be able to create a new campaign. So we don't have to open Vapi every time we want to do this. For the next node, let's add a Google Sheet node. And I'm going to select get rows in sheet and let's connect your Google Sheet account. And here I'm going to select outbound leads and let's select the sheet. And I'm just going to click on execute step. we can see that we have the 2 leads that are in our Google Sheets. So now we can close this, and you can see that it has 2 items, but we want to batch these 2 items together. And we need to do that because we are going to call Vapi's endpoint. And now you can see that we have 2 items here. And when you see this in an item, and it means that it's going to execute the next node 2 times, but we only want to do it once because we only want to create 1 campaign. And for that, we are going to use Vapi's new endpoint, which is the create campaign endpoint. So let's go to the Vapi documentation. Let's go to the API reference. And if you scroll down, you can see that new endpoints have been added. And here we can use the post create campaign. For creating campaign, we can use this endpoint. So I'm going to copy this, and it's going to be a post request. Go back to an item. Let's add an aggregator because this will batch these 2 items together. So we will be able to use the list in the request. So let's add an aggregator. And here to the aggregate field, let's select all item data. And let's open up the include. And let's select specific fields because I don't want to send the row number and I also don't want to send the age. So what I'm going to say here is number and name. And then we can click on execute step. And now you can see that we have the number and name for each leads. So let's close this. And now we can add an HTTP node. And this will be the node that will initiate the request. This will create a campaign for us. So let's switch this to post request. And I'm going to paste in the URL that I copied from the documentation, this one. And here we can click on try it. Before we make any request, I need to provide my auth token to Vapi. So for the authentication, let's open this up and let's click on generic credential type. And we need to select the header auth. And let's create a new credential. And for the name, you can say authorization. And for the value, we can add bearer, space, and we need to grab our token. So let's go to Vapi API keys and let's copy the private key. Then we can just paste it here. And now we can click on save. Let's close this. Let's enable send body and let's switch the specify body to using JSON. And now we can go back to the documentation. And here you can see that we need to provide a name for the campaign. I'm going to keep this sales campaign. And for the phone number ID, we need to find the ID that is related to the phone number in Vapi. So let's go to the phone numbers. And you can find the ID here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. And you can see that the customers are required. We are going to fill this in the N8M workflow. And also we can delete the schedule plan. If I open up customer properties, you can see that we can provide a number and also all this data, including the assistant overrides. And the assistant overrides is very important because this is very defined dynamic variables. For example, if you want to call the lead John, this is the place you will provide their name. So let's click on assistant overrides. And here I need to find variable values. And let's add one more optional properties, which will be the number. So let's copy this JSON and let's go back to N8N and let's switch to expression. And I'm going to paste all this here. And you can see that this is the format of the customer. So we will need to format this data to represent this format. And we can do it using the code node. So let's add the code node between the aggregator and HTTP request node. And what I'm going to do is declare the customer data, which will be, you can drag the data field here. And what we need to do is iterate through these leads, create a JavaScript object that represents this. And the way you can do it is to add.map. Let's write lead and let's add an arrow. And now let's add the brackets and curly braces. And we need to provide the first parameter, which will be the number in our case. And I'm going to say lead.number. You can see that it's autofilled. And the next parameter will be the assistant overrides, if I'm correct. Yes, let's copy this. And for this, I think we also need to add the variable values. So you can say curly braces and variable values. Let's add another curly braces. And here, let's say name. And this will be lead.name. And there's one more thing we need to do here, is we need to return it and pass it to the next node. So I'm going to say return curly braces customer data. And let's click on execute step. You can see that we have the customer data now. And if we did everything right, this should call this endpoint and it should create the campaign. So let's open this up and I'm going to delete these. And now we can just drag in the customer data here. And you can see on the right side that it says object, so it's not going to work like this. To make it work, we need to stringify it. So we can say json.stringify. And let's put this in brackets. And now you can see that we have all the values. And let's click on execute step now. It looks like we have an error because of the phone number. We need to add plus at the beginning of the number. So let's go back to the code node and let's do backticks. And inside the backticks, let's do a $sign and curly braces. And we can add the lead number. And at the beginning, let's add a plus character. And let's click on execute step. And now you can see that we have a plus character at the beginning of the phone number. So let's see if it works now. Let's click on execute workflow. It failed again. Let's see what's the error. We forgot to provide the assistant ID. So we can open this up again. And let's go back to the documentation. And here we will have the option to provide the assistant ID. If you have a workflow, if you have a Vapi workflow, you can provide a workflow ID as well. In that case, you don't have to provide your assistant ID, but I didn't create my assistant with workflows, so I'm going to select assistant ID. And let's copy these. We can put it here. And for the assistant ID, let's go back to Vapi. And I'm just going to copy the ID of the assistant. And let's paste it here. And if everything looks good, this should create the campaign. Yes, it looks like it works and it's already calling my number. So this is how we can set up an outbound campaign using Vapi. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. See you in the next one.